Howdy again, it's TOOLMAKE'S and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm embarking on a multi-part video, a project if you will, on how to make this little TOOLMAKE'S vise, or a small drill press vise, whatever you might want to call it. So I'm going to go into great detail on how to make one of these, and you may wish to make a pair of them that are exactly the same dimensions, so that you can use them for layout or whatever the purpose is. And if you're not doing layout, this would certainly be good for small model work as a drill press vise. In a video project that I made last year, and it was entitled How to Make a TOOLMAKE'S Clamp, number 275 and 276, I made these little TOOLMAKE'S clamps, but I did get some questions from some people saying, what are these for? Well, it's kind of like saying, what is a hammer for? It doesn't come with directions on how to use it, but because there's a million uses for it. And the same thing goes for this little vise, or I guess you could even say for a C-clamp. What do you use that for? Well, I don't know. It's 10,000, perhaps a million uses for a clamp. But this little TOOLMAKE'S vise would be very handy on a smaller drill press like this for model work. I have a whole bunch of these little clamps, and here's a pair of Starrett clamps in the original box, and that's probably from the 30s, long before they had gone to the red boxes, and then the more familiar box that we are currently used to. And I just love the sight of a Starrett box, don't you? But here are the clamps in the 1935 Starrett tool catalog, and it's $2.50 for a pair of them. Notice the extra jaws that came with them, and the spilled ink when we still used ink for fountain pens, and there's the clamps over there and a description of that. This was during the Depression, when $2.50 was pretty scarce, and probably 98% of the population couldn't afford those. But there's a pair of them in the box, and here's a, let's see, where is it? Here's another one, that an oddball, and it came without, wherever I got this, without the jaw, but these jaws interchange. They snap into place like that, and someone had drilled a hole in there for whatever reason. But these little vices could be used as a pair for layout, holding a work across them, and these jaws also pop out. However, I'm not going to make jaws like that in this particular project. Let me show you a few other vices. This is the 1941 Brown & Sharp catalog, and I was a negative 2 years old at the time, but there's also a similar pair of TOOLMAKE'S vices. And that's this was printed just before Pearl Harbor, when you think about it. In my travels, I came across this vise in a box, and what I got a kick out of there is that really it is the same as this, and I didn't know that till I completed this. So whoever made this, it's homemade. It was made from the drawing in this project book. And I used to use a book like this at the high school many years ago. This isn't the exact one. This is the one I bought from Tony's Nation Builders books for $6. But there's a lot of different projects here, including that little vise. Let's see, there it is right there. And it's about, and we're not going to go from this drawing, but some of you may have this, this book. And there, let's see, there's about 4 pages of drawings, including that assembly drawing. So if you have that book, go buy it, but I have made minor changes to it in my finished project here. But let me get back to that just a minute here. Here's a few others that I had, and these all appear to be homemade vices. Nicely made. That's also homemade. Some of these are hardened. By the way, the Starrett are case hardened, and I think the Brown & Sharp are too. And there's a little homemade one as well. I know I'm going into too much detail here, but some of you may enjoy this related information. As you know, I usually do not work from a drawing. I work backwards, where Tolly makes me the drawings after I make the project, but in this case it's just the opposite. I did make a prototype, and I sent this clear out to California, and Tolly made 3 pages of drawings here. And he's done many other drawings for me, as some of you know. And thank you, Tolly. Wonderful job, and I sure appreciate it. But there are 3 pages here, so if you are interested in making this, you can email Tolly, and he's just a wonderful guy that is happy to send these out to you as PDF files, and you can print them. However, in this video I will also attempt to scan this and have it maybe in each part of the video so you can refer to it, but I know that you cannot do that if you're using your phone or some other small device. You're not going to be able to read this, but probably on a larger computer you can read it right off the screen, so I will make that available as well. Again, here's his address. Pause your video if you need to write that down. Let's talk about the material and where to get it. This stock is 1 inch by 1 1/4. Well, where are you going to find something like that? You could change the dimensions and make it 1 by 1, which is something that's going to be far more common, and it wouldn't matter one bit. You can change any dimensions you want. I'm just giving you baseline dimensions here. But on this original, I started with a piece like this, or maybe it was this, I don't remember, but you can see I had to saw it, and there was a lot of tedious sawing, and I certainly don't want to go through that again, especially if I were to make 2 of these, and well, I did. In fact, this is my second one. But what I finally did, and my brother sent me this catalog, Hobby Metal Kits, and this is a last year's catalog. But it is out. This guy is out of Wisconsin, and he sells, and my brother wrote, too good to be true, as far as where you can get metal in small quantities. The big steel companies are not interested in your business, but there it is, 1018 steel, 1 by 1 1/4, and let's see, that's you can buy it in a 6-inch length or a 12-inch length. And I did just that. Here's the packing slip. And it was $13.70, and then the shipping was $12.50, which almost doubled it for a total of $26. Well, who wants to spend $26 on material? You know, I'm pretty cheap myself, and I don't blame you if you don't want to spend that. But here's the package, the way it came, and I tell you, they delivered it in about a day and a half. So, a lot fast, and I was going to do the unpackaging right now in the video, so let me do that. It's very well packed. So that I wouldn't cut myself, I went over to the bandsaw and sawed off the end, and they got extra packing there, and there it is, a $25 bar of 1 by 1 1/4 1018 cold rolled steel. Is it full of stresses? Of course it is. Will this want to bend when we mill it? I suppose a little bit, but I'm not going to anneal it or do any of that, but we'll see what happens as I go about machining this. And the first thing I do, of course, is I'm going to cut it down to length on my cutoff saw. And I believe it is, it is 4 inches. If I'm moving at too slow a pace, speed up your video. I need to have a little bit of extra material so I can square the ends off on the milling machine, which may or may not be necessary. So I'll mark it here at 4 1/8. Need a little extra stock. You can put some bluing on there if you want. Little extra material in case you make a crooked cut. Put your safety glasses on and observe all safety rules when working in the machine shop. It is so cold outside today that I'm going to do the cutting in here on my vertical saw. a push block on the vertical bandsaw. I'm going to degrease this and then put layout dye on it, but I had to laugh here, or I was impressed, I guess I should say, that look at how the burrs had been removed on both ends of the 1 foot long piece, and I will do that now on this end, even though it's going to get machined, because even you want the burrs off so when you lay it on your surface plate that it's laying flat, and dress it with a file. I'll do that off camera. I'm at the Bridgeport mill, and the work is in the vise on a parallel, and I will square off one end, then I'll take it out and measure exactly 4 inches and square the other. And I'm using one of these nice Niagara cutters, 3/4 diameter, brand new, that they donated to me, and see how it cuts. Very nice. I like to take the first pass by conventional milling and then come back, climb milling to get a better finish. And I think I could speed that up 1 notch. I reset the step pulleys for 1100 RPM, and I took the work out of the vise, took it over to the bench. I marked it at exactly 4 inches. You won't be able to see the mark, and now I'll simply mill it to that line, and that's going to be accurate enough. Remember, any dimension that's on your drawing that it doesn't have decimals on it can be you know, just within a few thousandths. Don't waste your time too much on linear dimensions. Sharp end mill. You can do a complete layout if you want, but I'm just going to lay out from this view so that I can mill or saw this out into the basic shape. I'm not going to lay off the end or the bottom. You can certainly do that if you want. And remember, as far as the order of operations on this, you certainly can vary from what I'm showing you, but in general what I'm showing you will work. So I have the height gauge set for, what is it here, 1/2 inch, 500 thousandths from the bottom, and that's for this line. And I put layout dye on 2 adjacent sides. You can put it on all sides if you want, but a lot of it will get scratched off. Now you may not have a height gauge, and just use your combination square. And for this purposes, it's probably going to be accurate enough. Now, the end is squared off. So next, I've got this gauge set for 750 thousandths. Right there. And this is the end that will have the thread. This dimension here, according to the drawing, is, and I'm looking at the drawing, 0.625. Some will say don't measure from both ends because you don't know how accurate this is. So I will measure, instead of 5/8 from this end, I'm going to do the math and measure from the bottom like this and scribe that. Let me see, I'll have to do the math here in my head to see what that is, and then I'll set the gauge. The Mitutoyo height gauge is set for 3.375, that's 3 3/8. Now all of this material, of course, needs to be removed, and that can be done by sawing or milling. Now I'm going to mill it. I sawed it on this one, and I just tell you that it's a lot of sawing. And then you still got to go back to the mill to clean it up. If you're going to saw this out, of course you can put you can drill a hole here, so you can saw in and make your turn, and you need another hole here, but it's just laborious. And if you don't use the holes, you got to basically saw down here, and you're sawing a little away from the line, and saw here. But you can't turn a saw blade on a sharp angle, as you know, so then you got to go in here like this and remove some of that, and then come back in this way and remove more, and just worry it away. And it's just a lot of work on thick stock. You don't mind doing it at all if you got a nice sharp blade and the material is relatively thin. And I'm just explaining this to tell you that I'm going to go over to the milling machine, mill this out, and I'm going to use one of those nice roughing cutters that would really hogs the metal. You might call it a hogging mill. And then I'll change cutters, put that 3/4 Niagara back in there, and clean it up to the lines. Several minutes ago I failed to give you the web address of Hobby Metals, and here it is. Their email and the website. But let me digress here just a minute and talk about oil cans. A man by the name of Palmer, and Palmer's his first name, made a couple oil cans for me, and I met him at Arnfest, quite a guy. And he says, and other people have made me oil cans too, as you know. There's one similar, and the one from Trainman, which I love. But these tend to rattle off the machine, as you well know. And Palmer said, well, I put a magnet in there, so you know it's not going to come off. And he's right, but I said, Palmer, you know, magnets can be pretty darn annoying too. And he said, yeah, I know, but so anyway, that's what. Thank you, Palmer. Palmer also gave me one in a, well, it's a beer can, is what it is, and it's a Belgian company pretending that it's an American company. So I will not show that or talk anymore about that. Now let's get back to the business at hand here of hogging off some metal. Again, here's where to get the drawing. Just send an email off to Tolly, and I'm going to put a couple stills now of these drawings to see if they show up in the video.